K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday night. There's the man, the myth, the legend, Bodine Sanders. Hello, Bodine. How are you tonight? And what's happening?
Hold on. I have to correct you. I am the man. I'm definitely not a myth. I could be a legend, but that's going to take some time.
Well, you're a legend in my mind and in this arena, certainly. So how's your week been? You had some, I'll let you explain the tea.
I am drinking some humble tea for my Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I was thinking of you.
We'll get into it later, but yeah, it's appropriate. I have to be, what is the word we have to be as media, sports media analysts and Monday morning quarterbacks? We have to be fair and balanced and impartial, right?
That's true. It's tough though. It's very difficult because you are certainly passionate about sports and you know, Philadelphia is in part where your heart lies. So, you know, you had some great moments this month, but also some heartbreak.
Yeah, that's what's great about sports, right? You have to stay even keel because if you get too high, the lows really hurt. So, but like I said, we'll get into football after we do our normal intro conversations. But yeah, it's sports in general will teach folks life lessons that ring true. So we've seen this movie before.
Yeah. So I wasn't here last week, so I'm not sure what you covered.
I'll tell you what we covered. We said we had to say goodbye. Oh, see, upside down. We had to say goodbye to the Phillies for losing the World Series, but they did a great job.
They did.
That's another example of people getting too excited and going over the top instead of staying even. It's okay to be excited. It's okay to root for your team with 110%, maybe even a little more with some alcoholic beverages of your choice. But you've got to face reality. Reality is Houston had better talent overall, better team overall. They had a better overall record during the year. They won over 100 games. We were in the high 80s, so they were a better team. We got I wouldn't say lucky. We started playing good baseball at the right time after the Summer Classic, after we got rid of the coach, and that's what it's all about. It's about winning when it matters, right? Not winning early in the season. Look at the Yankees, right? The Yankees won over 100 games and they got blowed out.
Yeah, sure.
So you have to win at the right time. And we got into the race as a wild card in terms of the baseball team. And we did great. We had a great season. It's a great way to build for next year because there are a lot of teams who would have loved to be in that World Series, right? They were at home or in Turk and Caicos or, you know, somewhere in the Bahamas watching the World Series on vacation. So we'll be all right.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you know, I have seen it, particularly in, you know, I was growing up, the Yankees often did it, but how often do teams come back? I mean, what are the stats on that? Come back the next year and make it to the World Series again? It's not, you know, I haven't seen that streak in the last decade. It hasn't been as prevalent as it used to be, I believe.
It's a small percentage, and that's why Houston appeared in the World Series 4 out of the last 6 years. So they are what the Yankees used to be, right? The Yankees used to win all the time. They used to be in the World Series all the time. They have more banners in their building than anybody else. So, but it is rare, right? Percentage wise, it is rare. So that's what, but that's what's good about sports. Again, you can hope and wish and pray and be a fan during the off season and hope the front office is doing whatever they can to build a team and get those parts that you need. You got a flat tire, you need a new tire, right? Your timing belt goes, you need a new timing belt, right? It's time for the front office to do what they're supposed to do and make sure that this team is ready to compete next year. So we'll see what happens. And all the teams are doing that. At least they're supposed to. So we'll see what happens.
So we have the network here supporting us, and I see, I believe it's probably Adam. So hi, Adam. He's giving us a shout out, telling everybody to join in and watch us, and we hope that they do. So did you cover any of the bad behavior? I mean, I know the prior week Justin had been prodding us to talk about Kyrie. I assume you talked about that a little bit last week. And where do you want to go? I mean, there's so much. Yeah, the bad behavior doesn't seem to be minimizing.
Sports,
diplomatically.
Sports is a microcosm of society. And whatever's happening in society bleeds its way, lack of a better word, into sports, music, entertainment, science, politics, all of it. It does. I mean, again, I'm not saying anything folks don't know. We hope that the things that we love, like sports and arts, the theater and things of that nature, and music and movies, is not affected, but it is. It really is. Because once those folks perform, they're back to being normal citizens, right? They're not acting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're not performing 24 hours, 7 days a week, right? They have lives. So, but the thing is that they're supposed to be leaders in those categories, right? Who are supposed to influence, the people that are participating in that particular industry. They're supposed to influence them, right? So everybody has a boss, or most people have a boss, right?
Either that or they have a wife. So it
one or the other or both, right? So yeah, right. So if you are, even if you're a high-powered or high-paying artist, someone still kind of makes the decisions on your, what you're doing or how you perform and how you get paid and all these things, right? Just like, what's his name? Kanye. He's got so many nicknames, I can't keep up, but he assumed that he couldn't get cut or squashed or dropped by, who was it, Adidas?
Canceled Adidas.
Was it Adidas or Nike or somebody? Well, guess what? It was in his contract, so he did. They dropped him. So everybody has to, some people just get too big for their britches, and it could be a long conversation, but let's keep it simple. The bottom line is we're sticking with sports. We've been having this conversation for weeks, haven't we, about bad behavior? Yeah. Last year, we seemed like we were talking about the good things that happened, right? The women in the Olympics, how the women in the Olympics as a total group dominated the Olympics more than the men. They won more medals, right? We talked about Carl Nassif, the gay player who came out, that it wasn't a big deal. Nobody even talked about it. He came out during the summer. Boom, you never heard anything about it. So last year, it was a different kind of vibe talking about human interest stories in sports. This year, whoa, it's crazy. We've got athletes bringing guns to school, UVA, and shooting teammates. It's right. We've talked about bad behavior from parents, bad behavior from coaches, uh, 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 athletic directors, and people who are in control, the leaders not doing what they're supposed to do in order to influence the kids and the student athletes. Right? I mean, I'm gonna keep preaching until somebody hears me and says amen to the church. Because I'm telling you, I talk to a lot of folks, and some folks are just checking a box. They're only concerned with the athletes eating right, lifting weights, performing on the field, but they're not concerned about their mental health, and they're not concerned about their social development. So those who do care are doing something about it, and those are the folks we need to highlight. And I plan on doing that shortly. And I'm telling you, it's crazy. What's your opinion on the UVA?
So I think it's been a very dark week in the country. I don't, I don't know if you also know the story about, it's not a story, the tragedy that 4 University of Idaho students were also slain this week. So I think that these are, granted, they're adults, right? Chronologically, biologically, they're adults, but they're really kids. We have kids being put into positions that, their lives aren't being protected. And I don't know the answer. I think that, they're saying reports that we don't know the story. I mean, obviously this young man was troubled. Reports are coming out now that, and I don't know if you heard this, that he already had a concealed weapon charge against him. The university knew about it and they chose not to act on it. They revealed that. So I think that that's certainly a gross oversight on their part. I don't want to go so far as to say it's malicious, but we should. And I have a son in college who's living on campus, and so as a mother, it's heartbreaking, really heartbreaking. And his father came out, said he hadn't spoken to him in about a month, which is telling in itself. You got a college kid out there, you should, it's really not. I shouldn't even project that or speculate on that. But, the reports are coming out that he felt as if he was picked on, as if he was paranoid. But the reality is at least one of those students was sleeping on the bus. So it wasn't an active, we don't know what happened. All I can say is that it's heartbreaking. I agree with what you said, that the country, it seems like we're in a much darker place this year. I mean, I think about when we talked about some of the athletes, we're talking about some of the athletes in an entirely different place, the same athletes. Look at where it's just so indicative of life. Look at where Tom Brady is today as compared to last year. Look at Bubba Wallace, right? Bubba Wallace was in the, we were all giving him the accolades, and now a year later, it's an entirely different story. And we're certainly not judging anybody. It just really speaks to human interest in life. We never know what's going on in people's lives. Things can change in a moment. Brittany Griner, right? So what can happen in a year is just, so I think you just hold people precious, hold the people who are precious in your life and try to do the best you can. If you're in a position of leadership, I don't see George on tonight, but coaches, I mean, I think that speaks to the importance of these volunteer coaches, because there's, in some of these children's lives, a coach is really, could be the difference between making it and not. right? And teachers too. I want to give teachers accolades and props as well. But coaches in particular, most often they're volunteers and there's somebody else's parent. It's a parent who really takes these kids under their wing, and it's really, if you're out there and you have a student athlete, and really, I hate to see these coaches being maligned and abused on the sidelines by parents, because they're volunteers who are really interested in changing the course of your child's life.
Well, I use the word leadership because it's not just the coaches. It's the people in leadership. It's the directors. It's the executive directors. It's the the athletic directors. It's all of the leadership. All of those folks who are part of the team, a part of the program, right? Who are adults, right? So it's everybody. It's no one person, right? And so it's the same for the school system when you talk about teachers. It's the same for the university when you're talking about the school president, the provost, all of the people that are leading these universities, all of the professional organizations from the owners. Snyder, who's, we talked about that dumpster fire for a while, right? He's got problems. So it's about leadership on every level, in every category, from business to nonprofits to the police, the protect and serve industry. And in all those sports category, in all of those categories, there are great people out there doing great work, without a doubt. The problem is, in our world, we tend to focus on those bad apples that are in the bucket or basket of good apples, right? So, we have to acknowledge the bad apples, but we need to focus on the good apples and their stories so more people can see them and hear them and go from there. And so, again, you're talking about things that I wrote about in my book, right? Selfish plug. For those folks out there who haven't read my book, come on. It's Thanksgiving week next week. You got plenty of time to read it. I talk about almost all of these issues in my book, every single one of them. There's 42 topics in my book that I talk about. It's canny how I talked about almost all of these issues in my book, from being teased, all of it, right? Getting along with your teammates, all of it, right? Relationships, period. It's about relationships. And so, we in this country have a lot of work to do.
We do. And I want to take it a step further. I mean, you're saying it's about leadership, but from my perspective, it's also about humanity, right? We have people who, regardless of whether you're in a position of leadership or not, I mean, you see these stories about people in the grocery store who, or wherever, these road rage incidents. It's just take a step back. And I want to, I've been talking about, the local team here and their road to the state championships, and they made it to the Final Four this past weekend, and they didn't win. But I'm very fortunate to be, my children are part of a school district, and the school district was actually highlighted in the local newspaper here about their initiative, that the emotional and mental health of the students is really the baseline. They know that they've implemented programs, and they know that unless they address those deficiencies, that's the foundation and the building block. And I think that's the problem, right? These things crop up in the universities and the high schools, and we have these school shootings, but it starts so much earlier. By the time they get to that level, it's a done, I hate to say that, but it's almost, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We really got to address these kids when they're young. And I love that part of your book. You brought up your book, and I love the part where you're speaking about, the summer camps and how instrumental that was in your own life. And I think it really starts that young. when you have kids who have those opportunities in those types of extracurricular activities, especially in the summer when kids have so much time. I love that part when you said how important and how diverse, and the diversity of it, right? I mean, I think that that's one of my favorite parts of your book. So I'll give you some props on the book today too.
Well, you're talking about summer camps. We can't forget about organizations like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, all those type organizations, Fleet Athletic League. They have a role to play too. So you're right. But I also know some of those organizations are just checking the box. And what do I mean by that? Yeah, they have programs for the kids. The kids come to the program to get them off the street. But you got to do more than that. It's all about development. You got to provide development, provide information to these kids. And a lot of these organizations, well, I'll say a small few of these organizations are not doing that. They're just checking the box. Yeah, we got the kids off the street. They're in here playing pool. They're on the computer. They're playing basketball, whatever. They're playing dodgeball. But that's not enough. They got to do more than that. And some of them are not. And I know it to be a fact because that's the business I'm in. So we got to call these folks out on it, the ones who aren't doing the job.
And the kids who are there are already vulnerable, right? That's why they're there. Big brothers, big sisters. There's probably a single parent household, and they're looking and most often it's the mothers, and that's not to denigrate fathers in any means, but it's often when you're going to big brothers, big sisters. It's often big brothers. There are fewer big sisters than big brothers, and I think that. They're looking for a role model and somebody to support their children, and everybody does that, right? We use TV and tablets and to babysit our children all the time. I've done it myself, but I think that the difference being is that I think these kids are vulnerable already, and often different in those circumstances. And I felt guilt carrying that burden myself, that, hey, I should be more interactive, more engaged, more. So I think the parents are probably hoping and relying and believing that their children are being engaged there and supported. And if you're saying they're checking the boxes, that's
and that's not enough. You got to do more than that. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
So
great intro. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I don't know if you talked about it last week, but this is really indicative of this and the bad behavior. I mean, did you speak about the tennis player who was? Did you see that video? The tennis player. Which I found. So there was a young tennis player, and there was a video of her. She was being coached, and her coach, it turned out, was her father. And he was on, she did something, I'm going to try it, it happened last week. So it was a graphic video. We didn't know what was going on at first. It was a young, a women's tennis player being beaten by her male coach, literally kicking her, kicking her. And then it was in Serbia. And then, so I think, in many parts of the world, athletes have it much more difficult than we do. But so the coach was seen brutally hitting the girl who was 14 years old. He's hitting her in the head and stomach. Then he later pulls her hair, drops her to the ground, and then she was not following his instructions, and it turned out, and if you watch the video later, but then the reports came out that the coach was actually her father. So, it's really heinous. And when you think about that, and then you think about the Williams sisters, and how supportive a parent can be, you're never people are not going to be successful when they're being ruled or coached and intimidated and manipulated by fear. And I think that this young woman is probably not going to be very successful in her career, and if she is, it will be for a short time because nobody can sustain that and carry that forever, right? So there's always an outlet at some time, and it's unfortunate. And I don't know her name. I was trying to find her name, but it's really a horrific video. Certainly.
Unless somebody can remove her from that situation, it's bad. Yeah,
Yep.
bad. But you're right. We don't generally have those issues in America because why? We generally are a progressive nation. We evolve. We learn from our mistakes. At least we're supposed to. And we've learned that kind of behavior that we did back in the 60s doesn't work. So we've evolved to better ways of coaching, right? So hopefully somebody can remove that young lady from her father's, care and space, and she can make a decision if she wants to continue or not.
And it, the reality is probably unlikely, right? Unless she seeks asylum at some time. There were conflicting reports of whether she was actually from Serbia or from China, but really, regardless, it's from an oppressive state. So, the tennis world was outraged, certainly.
Well, hopefully they're doing something behind the scenes, because the tennis organization is a powerful organization when they want to be.
They are, and I think that they have spotlight several players, but look at what happened. We haven't heard from that other woman, right? The woman who wasn't that from China too, where she came out and spoke out against one of the somebody who had seemed like, I would say, took advantage of her at the very least, a top official in the country who was they had an affair, but it seemed coerced. And she spoke out about that, and then she disappeared off the face of the earth. She did have a few after the world was outraged, the tennis world was outraged. Then she she made two brief appearances and denounced what she had said, but that certainly seemed. It certainly didn't seem genuine. And there, George is here. Hi, George. I'm repping the Sailors in the back. Sailor football. I love my new shirt, and thank you. It's a little too chilly here for me to wear, but
just when I was about to give George kudos for doing a family night, because I talked to him earlier, he was like, "Oh, I'm chilling with the family tonight. I can't make it to the show." He decides to peep in on the show. Dude, we were bragging on you about being a great coach and being a family man. Get off our program. No, it's all good. Thanks for coming, George.
So, he's also a great supporter of the Bo and Joe show. So I say, welcome in.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's 9:30. We better get into some sports topics.
Well, that just goes to show you there's a lot going on in the world, right?
That's a lot going on.
We haven't even.
It's bedtime for everybody, so he gets to sneak off, and we're his guilty pleasure. So we're glad to know that.
Well, okay. Well, let's jump to it. We only got 30 minutes.
All right. So I you didn't see my message. I was messaging you live during the game, and you missed it. But I was asking you if you were watching that Vikings game. We could start there. How crazy was that? That was an exciting game for sure.
Well, we'll get to NFL. Let's do college, and then we'll roll right into the pros because, and it'd be really quick. The top 5 programs are still the top 5. They haven't changed from last week, right? Georgia number 1, Ohio number 2. Sorry, George. The Ohio State University is still number 2. Michigan, my team, number 3. And probably yours too, I think, Joe. TCU number 4 and Tennessee number 5. Nothing's changed. Still the top 5 in the USA Today coaches poll, the Associated Press, and the Playoff Selection Committee. So nothing's changed. The best games coming up this weekend, I think USC versus UCLA, Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma, Utah versus Oregon, and then most of the other games are basically regional or in-state rivalry games because we're getting close to the end of the season, right? We're right at week 10, 11, 12, 13. Most teams aren't going to play more than 10 or 11 or 12 games on their schedule. And then we've got playoffs, right? December, it's around the corner. Thanksgiving's next week, right?
Yeah,
right?
I can't believe it.
Right? So,
Right, I can't.
Right? Yep. So
Yeah.
that's we're getting ready for, all the bowl games. Some bowls won't matter. There's going to be a dog bowl. Name a dog food. Name a dog food. Alpo bowl. We're going to have the potato chips bowl and soda bowls and turkey bowls and it's going to be all kinds of bowls. There's probably be a sandals or a surfboard bowl or a skateboard bowl. There's so many bowls, it's ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a paper bowl or a mug bowl. So we
might have to have our own, the Bo and Joe bowl. Right? That would be a fun show.
There's enough bowl games out there. We can create our own bowl show. No question about it.
That would be fun. Right.
All right. So
okay.
Go ahead. Yep. You ready?
Well, I have a question about Thanksgiving when we move on to the NFL. I was wondering, right? I mean, how did the tradition start? That isn't it? Dallas always plays on Thanksgiving. Isn't there any pushback that they want to spread the wealth around, or how did that tradition come to be?
Well, Dallas isn't the only team that plays on Thanksgiving. There's at least 3 games, maybe now 4 with Prime. Right. Amazon having buying into the league. So I would be, and George, if you're watching, feel free to help us out. I would be willing to bet that there's a 1:00 game, a 3:30, 4:00 game, which is usually the Dallas game. The first game is Detroit, so Detroit's always on. Then Dallas is the second game. Then there's usually a third game, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 4th game. And I think it is on Friday. So there are going to be 4 NFL games between Thursday and Friday, and then they'll continue on Sunday. But it's always been Detroit and Dallas because they're some of the oldest teams in the league. So, and that's the contract that they have, and they were smart enough to sign it. Just imagine, way back in the day, the owner said, "Hey, let's be one of the teams that's always on TV." And some of the owners was like, "No, we want to give our guys Thanksgiving off." Well, guess what? They made the wrong decision. So Dallas and Detroit, probably Green Bay. Who is that? I can't see it.
Chardal. So hi, Chardal. Are you saying hi, Bo? Hi, Joe.
No,
Chardal.
They tried to get Cowboys off at Thanksgiving and they replaced it with the Cardinals one year.
What happened? People went crazy?
Oh yeah. I bet that didn't go well.
And then for this year, it's Fox, NBC, and CBS doing Thanksgiving.
So there's 3 games, but is there a game on Friday with Prime?
Next
with
year.
Amazon? Next year. So next year. Okay, so next year they'll kick off with 4 games on. So that Black Friday will be a game on Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. See, it's all about it's all about content, right? It's all about content. So Crispy Bacon.
I don't even see the Dallas game. It said the Bills, Lions, Patriots, Vikings. Oh, the Giants, Cowboys. The Giants, Cowboys. Okay.
Oh, and that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game because both teams are vying to keep up with the Crispy Bacon. Eventually, we're going to talk about this, but isn't there 7 teams per conference in the playoffs this year, or is it just 6?
7.
So
First
I would
buy only.
I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 teams from the East make it to the playoffs because Washington is no joke. They're what do you call it? They're out kicking their coverage. And what do I mean by that? They're playing good football, even though their ownership is a dumpster fire.
Well, they found a good quarterback too.
They got a good quarterback, and we talked about Heineken drinking guy last year. He's a player, he's an athlete, and unfortunately, his former quarterback for the Eagles, I think his career is done. Either he's going to be a backup or he's going to be out of the league because he's just not. He hasn't played well for 3 teams. I think he's got problems. So he's made enough money though. But before we get started, let's talk about the best game last week. Buffalo versus Minnesota.
Yeah,
that was a good game.
Yeah, that was a good game.
Without a doubt, the best game of the week. Now, I think 13 out of the 14 games last week were great games. Only one was just boring, and that was Denver. Whoever Denver played, that was a horrible game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some people have said that the Vikings, that game, Bills Vikings game was the best game they've ever seen. Some people.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
well,
I heard that.
And maybe for them it was.
Maybe for them it was, but I can tell you what, it was absolutely the best game of the year, and it's probably moved into the top 10 of all time because it was absolutely incredible. Now, did you see the highlight of Jefferson catching that ball with one hand, and they say it was better than OBJ's, right? Yeah. Well, a couple of maybe a minute, what is that? Maybe 5 minutes before that, Diggs had a one-handed catch from Buffalo. That was awesome. It's just he was by himself, and he had to leap up and catch that ball. So there were some great catches. And listen, there's no doubt that Josh Allen is absolutely the man. That kid impresses me every week. I don't know about you guys.
I agree.
This kid is awesome.
And you're not going to win every game. He's going to have every now and then.
Yes, everybody does.
But he came close.
Absolutely.
He came close.
He is awesome. Yeah,
he is. And you know how I am. Not only is he a talented player, but from all accounts, and of course, we don't know these players, but he also seems to be a pretty decent man as well. So, that really ties it in for me.
Well, I could tell he was a good guy based on when he played in the golf challenge with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning last year, and Charles Barkley was one of the analysts. Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
And he has a sense of humor. I think to me that's more and more important in life. If you have a sense of humor, I mean, that's why, I like the Manning brothers. They have a sense of humor. I mean, I don't always think they're, necessarily, their humor is quirky sometimes, and, it's corny, but I like that. You're just, you don't care. You're just taking life and being casual and doing, that's the same thing I like about, not that he's related to sports, but Jimmy Fallon, he'll do any goofy skit, and it just makes him appealing, I think. We need more lighthearted moments, and, when we have people like Aaron Rodgers, who everything's negative, everything's heavy, he's always, he's the victim, he's misperceived, he's this, he's that. You really have an opportunity to lighten up, and he just takes himself so seriously.
He's a drama queen. We talked about it. He's a drama queen. He's always trying to prove how smart he is, and nobody likes the person who's trying to prove how smart they are. People will recognize if you're smart, and they'll give you credit, or at least most people will. But when you're trying to prove you're the smartest guy in the room, it doesn't work.
Right. Even if you are the smartest guy in the room.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
That's my point.
I don't want.
Stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar with Elon Musk. Very smart, but
Stop.
you're trying
Yeah.
so hard all the
You
time.
can,
It just detracts from everything.
Give it up. Let it. Relax. Right?
Yeah.
Relax, dude. Relax. We know who you are. Relax.
And most people don't care.
Most people don't give a ham sandwich. They don't.
All right,
They don't.
so Chardal's asking you. I know you may not want to talk about it. Thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles losing to the Commanders by 32-21, and their undefeated streak is over.
That was a close game.
Close.
Well, as you can see, I'm drinking my humble tea.
Yeah, but it was tough. That was a tough one.
Listen, I'll answer this question. First of all, I'd rather them have lost this game now than towards the end of the season, because again, it's humble pie. You're not as good as you think you are. So now you got to go back to the drawing board and get better. They didn't play well. Washington played well. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Washington played well. Yes, refs made bad calls, but you shouldn't be in a position where a bad call is going to hurt you. Because guess what? Bad calls are made every game.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
you shouldn't be in that position. They didn't play well as a team. And I was having a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago. If you're gonna lose a game, you want to get your butts kicked to force you back to the drawing board. You don't want to lose and go, oh man, we lost by 3 points. That's not the same incentive. No, they got their butts kicked by Washington at home on Monday night. That's embarrassing. They should be embarrassed about it. From the owner to the executives, all the way down to the training staff and the people who hand out water. They all should take a look in the mirror and go, yeah, we're not as good as we think we are. Let's go back to work. So get back to work, and because you got some tough games coming up. I got the schedule right here. You've got, if I can see without my glasses, you've got Indy next week. We can talk about that, and them hiring a coach who's never been a coach before. Joe, you weren't here last week when that happened, right? They got Indy next week, Green Bay, Tennessee, all tough games. Then the Giants, Chicago, who's playing better, Dallas again.
Yep, tough.
New Orleans is the only one that's a real given victory, but that's not true because those guys get paid too. And then the last game of the season against the Giants.
And the Giants are doing pretty well.
Giants is balling.
Yeah. And so, it's funny because just 2 weeks ago, I was talking about how, this season as opposed to last season, there was a wide disparity in scoring. And then now this week, we had some really tight games, which always makes it more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Joe,
they gotta prove me wrong.
Well, Joe, think about it. This is just a little past the halfway point of the season. Guys are getting serious. They realize this is a playoff push, right?
Right.
In golf, they call it moving day, right? You got to move up, right? On Saturday, you got to move up the leaderboard so you can try to be in the final groups on Sunday. That's right. That's the only way you're going to come back and win in golf. You got to be in the final 2 or 3 groups on Sunday in order to have a chance to win. So this part of the schedule, right? We have 4 quarters. This is now the 3rd quarter of those 4-quarter season, right? So teams got to move up and be in a position where the last quarter, which is the last 4 games of the season, is do or die. You're either going to make the playoffs or you're not, period.
Let me ask you this. I mean, what's the financial incentive for making it to the playoffs? Is there any?
Money.
It is for some players, but
Well, no. For some players, and both answers are true. Both of those answers are true. For some players, they have incentives in their contract, bonus money to perform. But everybody who makes it to the playoffs gets money. They get bonuses, right?
Okay.
And the more you win in the playoffs, the higher that bonus gets. Remember, the team that wins the Super Bowl gets a bigger check than the team that loses the Super Bowl.
Right.
So there's
an
incentive.
These players are passionate just about playing, but always, a financial incentive never hurts.
They,
Yeah.
pretty much all players to some degree have an incentive. Some have more incentive than others, but they all have an incentive. Even the players who have a base contract, they're not starters, they're rotate players. Their incentive is, hey, let's get to the playoffs so I can make some extra money.
And then there's some contracts that when they're traded, like Carson Wentz, if they play so many games and they take their team to the playoff, it could be used for raising your team up in the draft, or could bring them back.
So there are incentives even for the teams as a whole, right? So
Right.
yeah, there's always an incentive to win. Winning cures everything.
George is saying bonus money, incentives, and the minimum incentive for playoffs is $65,000 per player.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Is that good enough for you, Joe? Is that an incentive good enough for you?
I mean, when you think about it, it's very well. But then I think about some people, 65,000 is more than they make in a year, right? So that always brings me back to, we have sports individuals and artists, celebrities who make more than doctors or, scientists. But of course, that's a subject for another day.
Yep, that is, and that's because those folks chose those industries. It's not that they didn't, right?
Sure.
So,
sure.
Yep. So, let's talk about week 9. I won week 9. Joe,
Okay.
you came in second, and believe it or not, Crispy Bacon came in third.
I can't believe it. He must have been sick that week.
Yeah, but guess what? Don't stay even keel, sister, because guess what? He kicked our butts the following 2 weeks.
Yeah, I wasn't even here to pick, and he kicked my butt. So George, I want to follow up. George is saying, remember, Super Bowl losers get $125,000 per player, and the winners get $300,000 per player.
That's because of the new contract and the new negotiating TV contracts. It used to be 50,000 and 40,000, and but now it's bigger money because of the TV contracts.
And didn't the Super Bowl MVP get a car at some point?
Anybody that wins an award gets something. So it is big business, without a doubt, big business. So I don't know what the true numbers are, but what I say to you, Joe, is Crispy Bacon is leading the way.
All right.
Because he's won most of the weeks anyway. So, but we're hanging tough. We're going
to redeem ourselves this week.
Well, let's get to it. Let's start picking. I got the sheet right here. First game tomorrow night, Titans versus Green Bay in Green Bay. Who you got?
Oh, gosh. I guess I'm going to say, I don't know.
I'm going Titans.
You're going Titans. I'm going to go with Green Bay.
I'm going Tennessee.
Yep. Green Bay just haven't convinced me they're over their issues with the entire team. So, yeah. Okay, next game, Rams versus New Orleans in the Big Easy.
I'll go with New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans.
Are you? I'm going with the Rams.
George is saying anyone can have 4 bad weeks. Are you talking about me, George, or our team? I'm taking this sailor shirt down. I think he's talking about.
Next game is Chicago at the ATL, Hotlanta.
Oh boy,
it's a tough one. I agree.
I'm going Chicago.
I think I'm going with Chicago too.
I'm going to go with the Bears too.
Okay.
He's saying George is reminded that Stafford is still in concussion protocol. Oh, and he was giving me some hope that Chris might
Oh.
have 4 bad weeks in a row. It's unlikely. It's unlikely.
Next game, which in the beginning of the year would have been like, oh, who cares? But this game is Washington at Houston. I'm going to Washington.
I'm going Washington too. I think they're on a roll.
They are playing well. They're 500. If they win 5 more games, they'll be at 10-5, and that's a play. I'm telling you, Chris, I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 teams in the East make it to the playoffs because of that extra team going to the playoffs, right?
That'd be crazy. That'd be cool,
Right?
though.
Right? It would be. Remember, it's been done before. 3 teams have gone to the playoffs before. Why not make it 4 that they have that extra chance, right? You get the division winner, and the other 3 will be wild cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, if Philly continues to win, they're going to be the overall conference winner, and they'll get that bye.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, Joe, if you look at the schedule, I mean, the actual win-loss records, it is what you thought it was. There's a lot of parity in the league. There's nobody blowing anybody away in terms of wins and losses.
Yeah.
Right? So now that the Eagles lost, they've come back to earth. So they're not untouchable.
George is disputing you. He's saying, remember, Bodine, they all play divisional teams in the last week, so all 4 won't get there.
Hold your simmer down, Stallion. We'll see. All right, next game, Carolina versus.
I will say, George, in these scenarios, most of the time Bodine proves himself to be right. So you might want to simmer down. We'll see.
Carolina at Baltimore. I'm going Baltimore.
I'm going Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Detroit. At the G-Men, at the Giants. Now, Detroit has a bad record, but they play good football. But I'm going the Giants.
I'm going the Giants.
Giants, but Detroit's on a 2-game winning streak.
Yeah.
They're playing good football, no doubt about it.
Even when they've lost, they're done well, right?
Yeah.
Even in the losses, I mean, it's been tight.
Yep. Cleveland at Buffalo. This is easy.
Buffalo.
But you never know.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
How about this game? How about this one? Where's our boy from Boston on this one? The Jets versus New England. That's a rivalry game.
Where is it?
And it's in New England.
I'm going to say Jets.
I'm going.
Oh my gosh, George is saying, the Cleveland versus Buffalo is that they're expecting 3 to 6 feet of snow. Well, then that game, what happens then? They'd have to postpone that game.
No, they would play.
No, they play it. They just clear the field.
In 6 feet of snow?
They clear it. They pay, and they pay people to come from the community. They pay people in the community to shovel the snow out of the stands. Oh, they got this thing down to a science.
I've seen it, but I've never seen 6 feet. But all right.
I've seen, like, in Green Bay, there's like heating coils underneath the field to melt the snow.
Yeah, they'll put a tarp over the field. They'll remove that snow. You won't even know that it snowed inside that stadium unless it's.
Yeah, George is saying they'll plow during commercial breaks. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Buffalo snow. Yeah, Buffalo snow is no joke. I mean, it's just not. It's crazy here.
It'll be the first snow game of the season. I'm writing this down. First snow game of the season. Nice.
I would be going with Buffalo anyway, but they're used to it.
Yep. So who we got? Jets or New England? I'm going Jets.
I'm going Jets.
New England.
All right.
Would you say, Chris?
New England.
Okay. This actually is going to be a good game. Philly at Indy.
I'm going Philly.
Yep. Indy had that great win, first game for Saturday. And Joe, you weren't here. What's your opinion of him getting the coaching job over coaches who already on the coaching staff? And then we can talk about the Rooney Rule, but that doesn't really apply because he's not hired full time. He's the interim coach. But what do you think about him getting the job and he hasn't coached in the NFL ever?
I'm all for giving people a chance, but I'm also a bigger advocate of rewarding loyalty, promoting from within, and taking people who are experienced and dedicated. I think it causes a ripple throughout the entire team. Right? It's a horrible morale. It's a horrible statement. It's horrible for the players' morale. And how do you just step in and never having coached before? I mean, what is his background in respect to coaching? I mean, did he coach? He's coming out of college,
High school.
No,
high
He's a
school.
high school coach.
yeah, but but listen,
He used to play for the Colts.
two things can be true at the same time, right? Right? We can walk and chew gum at the same time. He's got a great relationship with the owner. He was Peyton Manning's center. He's a smart dude. I like Jeff Saturday without a doubt. I'm a contrarian, right? I buck the trend. I don't follow the crowd. I make my own decisions and do my own thing. I get it. But on the other hand, you've got coaches on the coaching staff who's been there for years, or at least this year. They're feeling like, dude, what's wrong with us?
And it's mid-season. If it had been in the summer, going into the season, there's time to build that camaraderie and but you're really jeopardizing. I don't know. I think the hit to morale. I've seen it in my own professional life. It really takes a toll. Georgia said he had 3 years of high school, plus he and Manning coached the team while playing on the field, but it's still a wild move.
But at the same time, if he can lead the team to a playoff, he could get the job. But we saw that from the Raiders, and that interim coach couldn't get a job.
Yeah, I wish him well for sure. But it's controversial, right? I see both sides. I see taking a risk, taking a chance, bringing somebody in new, somebody in fresh, and maybe the owners know more. Maybe those coaches aren't really, behind the scenes aren't what they're looking for. Maybe they're complacent and they don't have the spark that they need. So we never know what's going on behind the scenes in entirety. So all I can say is I see both sides, and I wish them well.
Like I said, two things can be true at the same time, but we still have to voice those two sides because they're true. The perception is one thing and reality is another, and you go forward. So let's see how it plays out. Because if it plays out like Chris says and they continue to win, the owner looks like a genius.
Yeah, right.
But
it's reminiscent of, I forgot the name of the school. Remember the high school basketball team last year who came in through, wasn't that the basketball team who came out and dominated, and they were like the Cinderella story. What was that team again? You know the team I mean.
Oh, hold on. Not high school. You're talking about in college for the March Madness.
Yeah, right. What's St. Joseph's or St.
Yeah, St. Peter's. St. Peter's in New Jersey. Yeah, they came out of nowhere. Yeah. It's a feel good story. Anything can happen.
Yeah. Adrian's chiming in. Hi, Adrian. He coaches down the street from me at Hebron Christian High School. The only issue is that it's outside of the norm, and it doesn't mean he can't be successful. True, right? Yeah. And we hope he is.
Right.
Can you imagine? Do they still have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl?
Who?
The team.
Colts. The Colts?
Yeah.
The Colts.
I mean, is their record? What is their record?
Look it up real quick while we pick the next game. The next game is Raiders versus Denver in Denver, and both of those teams are doing bad. I'm gonna pick Denver. What do you think, Chris?
Who are they going up against? Denver? Who's Denver facing?
It's Denver at home versus the Raiders, and I'm a Raiders fan, but I think the Raiders got problems.
I'm going Denver.
I'll go Denver too.
So what's the record of the Colts? Did you look it up?
Oh yeah, I'm looking right now.
I know they have a tie.
Yeah, they have a tie that might come back to haunt them. Next game, woo! Dallas versus Minnesota in Minnesota. Woo, 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 woo. That's an important game. That's a very important game.
They have a pretty good record. They're number 2 in the AFC South. They're 4-5. I mean, 4-5 and a tie.
They have, put it this way, they have a chance to make the playoffs if they continue to win. They're not out of it.
So
Correct.
George is Adrian saying why keep recycling old pro coaches, and George, thanks for you're pulling out 4-5-1 too. So, all right, what do we got?
Dallas at Minnesota. Woo! That's gonna be a good game.
I'm going Minnesota.
I know Chris is going for Dallas, so I'm gonna have to be the tiebreaker here. I'm gonna have to be the tiebreaker here. I'm going for Dallas.
All right. I could sweep you guys this week. I'm going George is saying George and Adrian are both going with the Cowboys. I'm the only. Oh boy. All right. I'm the only Vikings. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Next game is Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. That's going to be a good game.
I'm going to go Pittsburgh, I guess. I'm not crazy about that. Well, I'll go Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Cincinnati.
I'm going to Cincinnati.
Okay, Joe, make your mind up. Who you going for?
Cincinnati.
Okay. I'm going for Cincinnati. Yeah, Pittsburgh's still in their development stage. Sunday night game, big game, primetime TV. KC versus the Chargers, LA Chargers, Kansas City in LA.
George said the Bengals Steelers was pulled from Sunday night.
Yeah.
Where's it going?
It's going to be on the, I think, 3 o'clock spot.
Huh.
And then I think that Bengals. No, that's for week 11.
Hold on.
They pulled it from week 11.
Okay.
We're in week 10, aren't we?
Based on the schedule I saw, KC and the Chargers are playing Sunday night. Is George saying that they pulled that game and flexed it? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, he's saying the Chargers and Chiefs flexed
I
into
believe
Sunday.
so, yeah.
Until Sunday, what time?
And then Adrian is saying
Like
that as well.
3 o'clock.
It's week 11. Week 11, George is saying.
It's flex when?
Week 11. Like
What time?
I'm looking. I know they switched with the Bengals. Wait, even okay. The Bengals Steelers is at 3:25. The Chiefs Chargers is at 7:20, both Central Time. So I think that the Bengals game was originally going to be in the afternoon or in the primetime spot.
So I got it right. I said Sunday night. KC at the Chargers.
Right.
Right. I got it right.
Well, yeah, they just said that it was flexed in, that they took the Bengals Steelers and pulled that.
Yeah. I
did
didn't
get
say
it
it. Right. I got it right. I just didn't say it was flexed in. I didn't say they switched, but I knew they flexed it in. Right. So who you got?
Yeah. Okay. I said Bengals, right?
No.
Yeah.
Or the Chargers game.
Confused. Chiefs Chargers.
We already picked this. Yeah, we picked the Cincinnati pick game. We're picking Kansas City and Chargers.
I'm going with the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
We're all on the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Monday night. 49ers. Arizona.
And this game's in Mexico City.
Yep.
I'm going with the 49ers.
I'm going Arizona.
George said the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. All right. I have a good pick, man.
49ers are playing good football in terms of Garoppolo. He has a better attitude than the Arizona quarterback. And I don't know what their problem is. Their chemistry is terrible. I'm going for 49ers. Who else is picking the 49ers, Joe?
I'm picking the 49ers. I always
And
like
Chris?
Garoppolo. I
Oh
like
yeah,
him.
that's true.
You got Arizona, Chris? Or are you changing?
I'm going. Final answer: San Francisco. Murray
Okay,
is still
final
out.
answer. Yep,
Yeah,
final answer. Good man, good man. Now, isn't there 4 teams idle this week?
I think so.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, Jaguars, Dolphins, Seahawks, and Buccaneers.
Well, I'm sitting here. I forgot to put on my Jaguars hat because my kids are playing better football. We're going to be all right. The Jags are going to be all right. They're slowly but surely getting it right. So, come on, Jags. Let's do your thing. I don't need to put on my Eagles hat because we already know the Eagles are fine. So I got to
That
start
is-
rooting for my Jags.
Yeah, that is one thing I like about the NFL. Even if you start out slow, you have time you can make up the ground, right? You're
Oh.
not out of it. Yeah, I like that.
No question. No question. Well, listen, we got our picks. Basketball season has started, and it's Nova Nation time.
Oh boy.
Even though we got beat by Temple the first time in 10 years, and we got a new head coach, it's all right. Nova Nation.
All right, we haven't
That's
seen
also
the
the one sport you can start.
Say that again, Chris.
Yeah, that's one sport you can also start out. If you're having trouble.
Yeah, basketball doesn't really kick in until the new year.
Mhm.
So, oh, look at me. I'm losing my mind. I had it upside down. So I'm repping Cheney. I'm repping Nova. I got so many props. I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
Oh.
you got 'em.
Hold on. Last but not least, we got to do a shout out to Deion Sanders
Mhm.
for
He's
bringing
one of my
that
favorites. He's always been one of my favorites.
Jackson State and the HBCU community the notoriety that they deserve because the boys are balling.
And being on ESPN helped too a little bit.
Oh, he's doing a great job. He really is.
And he's another person who's likable, right? I've always liked him. I think that he's one of the coaches we talked about, who's a mentor and really standing up, and he should be highlighted not only for his development, his athletic development of the players, but he's also a great right social development and supporter, and I just like that team. I like Deion, always have.
Well, listen, I'm not supporting Deion because we share the same last name. I'm 2 years older than Deion. We're from the same state, FLA, the Dirty South. But listen, there are a lot of people that don't like Deion because of his personality. So allow me a point or a minute of personal privilege to say to those folks who don't like Deion because of his personality, don't let his confidence offend your insecurity. That's a you problem, not his problem. I said enough.
Right. Well, looks like we're gonna have to order some basketball shirts. Bodine, George is telling us he has the Sailors B men basketball squad started practices and games start in December.
Yep,
Oh boy.
he's coaching basketball, so we got to we got to support the basketball team.
All right, we'll do it. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We had Adrian, George, we had the network. Adam was here. Shardal, of course. Thank you.
Hold on. What about next week? Next Thursday's Thanksgiving. Are we having a Wednesday night Thanksgiving show like we did last year, where people bring in their adult beverages and we're all relaxing and hanging out?
Sure, why not? We'll have to promote it. We'll have to get a flyer out.
Remember you decorated.
I did. I had my hat. Remember my turkey hat? I've been thinking about that. How am I going to top that? I could get a top hat. All right, yeah, let's do it. It's so George, the family will be sleeping by then. Adrian, you'll be doing the cooking again, so Bring your beverage.
Well, listen. Let's tell our folks, and we'll spread the word. Take a picture of some decorative Thanksgiving pictures, and if you get them to us early, we'll try to get them up on the show. Right? Can you do that, Christy Bacon?
I can do that.
There we go.
And not only that, I mean, I think last year we did it as well, and especially this year when we've been talking about some heavy things, we'll talk about, you know, the things that we're thankful for. Adrian said, always that's his night of cooking. Yeah, so perfect. We'll spend Wednesday night together. I enjoy that. And I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it this year because I thought I was going to be picking my son up from college, but I'm heading out there Tuesday instead. So yeah. All right, George is in. Perfect. Adrian's in. George is in. We're in. And then we'll try to get some more. We'll have to try to get Justin in. We'll get our loyal peeps in.
Well, listen. I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna try to post a message on Facebook saying, folks, tune in. Take pictures of your Thanksgiving decorations. One picture. Send it in early, and then we'll post it on our show. See if that can get more people to check out our show, because no one has to work Thursday morning. Well, most people.
So not a ton of people have Thanksgiving decorations. So throw it out, decorations or favorite dishes, right? A lot of people have a lot of food. We could see some pies.
Yeah.
Are you boiling up the peanuts? What do you got? Are you getting all your provisions ready?
Listen, I've lost 20 pounds. I am not trying to lose. I'm not trying to put it on. So yeah, I'm 10 pounds away from my goal weight of 210. Nah, I'm chilling this year. I'm eating oatmeal.
All right. Ellie has a lot of Thanksgiving decor. I actually do too. So I say that.
So no, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but yeah, we'll see.
All right, perfect. All right, so of course, thanks to everybody behind the scenes, of course, as well, all the viewers and Crispy Bacon. You know, wouldn't be a show without you. And of course, thank you to my co-host Bodie and Sanders, and we'll see everybody next week because we're certainly thankful for everybody here. All right.